Meantime, in the Senate, fight over how best to fix the economy and the question of whether even one Republican might deign to consider voting for President Obama's stimulus plan. One plan of attack is taking aim not at the GOP leader in the House, John Boehner, but rather at radio comedian Rush Limbaugh. The liberal advocacy group Americans United for Change targeting Limbaugh as the de facto leader of the Republican Party, and today launching a series of radio ads that link that personality to what amounts to moderate Republican senators in 3 states that President Obama won. Senator Specter of Pennsylvania, Senator Voinovich of Ohio, Senator Ensign of Nevada. All of the ads drawing a direct line from Limbaugh's "I hope he fails" comment about President Obama to the senator in question, including in this brief portion of the Nevada ad.
We can understand why an extreme partisan like Rush Limbaugh wants President Obama's jobs program to fail, but the members of Congress elected to represent the citizens in their districts, that's another matter. Now the Obama plan goes to the Senate, and the question is, will our Senator John Ensign side with Rush Limbaugh too?
I hope he fails.
Let's turn now to E.J. Dionne, Washington Post columnist, senior fellow at the Brookings Institution. Good evening, E.J.
Good to be with you, Keith.
Is there anything to framing the stimulus fight as Obama versus Limbaugh, or is that little more than a perhaps useful gimmick for an attack ad?
Well, if it's a gimmick, I think it's a good gimmick. First of all, those are states where Obama beat McCain. Imagine how big his margin would be over Rush Limbaugh. So if you cast the choice that way, Obama or Limbaugh, it's very favorable to the president. Secondly, if you look at the coverage of this fight so far, the Republicans really haven't paid a very big price for not giving any votes to Obama in the House. And I think this is an effort to say, look, there is going to be some price to be paid. You're going to be associated with this very loud right-winger who may be popular in the conservative base, but surely isn't popular among moderate swing voters.
Senator Specter, Senator Voinovich, Senator Ensign are targeted by the radio ads. Senator Snowe, Senator Collins, Senator Gregg, Senator Murkowski, Senator Grassley, they are the focus of the TV ads funded by this coalition of Democratic groups. Is any one of them more susceptible to re-election fears or pressure from their districts than their counterparts in the House seemingly were not when none of them supported the stimulus program?
Well, I think all of the senators are far more vulnerable to pressure than all but a few of the House members, because the House districts, the Republicans have lost a lot of seats, so they're really down to their hardcore. Those folks represent very conservative districts, whereas senators represent very diverse constituencies, and obviously in the case of these senators, they represent constituencies that like Barack Obama. He's up to 69% nationally, and that includes the states that voted against him. So I think they're turning on the heat now, and I think again that the Republicans have paid so little a price so far that they've had to figure out some way to bring different kinds of pressure on a different kind of pressure on these Republicans.
Is feeding Rush Limbaugh's paranoia and his delusions of grandeur, is that ever a good idea ultimately, however?
Sure, it's a good idea. You can say that this gives Rush Limbaugh more attention. Well, guess what? Limbaugh gets a lot of attention. He's a very important figure on the right wing. A president wins not only by winning votes from his own party, but also by changing the other party. Ronald Reagan changed the balance of power in the Democratic Party in 1981 in his direction. And so I think by saying this is an extremist voice or an extreme voice, do you want this whole party to be like that? Do you want your party to be like that? I think it takes him seriously. The other thing is he's been used to mobilize conservatives on behalf of Republicans for a long time, but middle-of-the-road voters haven't paid any attention to him because they don't listen. This says, wait a minute, you middle-of-the-road folks, pay attention to who is supporting the conservative wing of the Republican Party.
We mentioned Senator Gregg. There are these intriguing reports that he's being considered for Commerce Secretary in the Obama administration, and the Republicans don't want him to take it for several reasons, not the least of which would be there's a Democratic governor in the state who would appoint his replacement. Is that going to end up making the battle over the stimulus package look like a quick dance in the spring rain, or is there some deal going to be cut in which the Democratic governor will appoint a Republican replacement?
You know, this is the ultimate in a crazy like a fox move, because on the one hand, Obama will get credit from some for being bipartisan. He's naming another Republican to his cabinet. Meanwhile, he's pushing the Democrats, well, potentially, assuming Al Franken wins, up to 60 votes. It's the ultimate win-win for Barack Obama. I kind of think that Senator Gregg is a person of the Senate. He's under a lot of pressure from Republicans not to take this job, but it's a very clever thing to float out there.
E.J. Dionne of the Washington Post and the Brookings Institution, as always, great thanks. Have a great weekend.
And you have fun down there, Keith. Thank you.
I'm doing what I can. Everybody works for Rush Limbaugh. As the Republican National Committee teeters towards either civil war or suicide, the current chairman quits his bid for re-election, and Limbaugh decides he will decide who will lead the conservatives. Sarah Palin. If Limbaugh can give the Democrats the eternal gift that would be Sarah Palin as the head of the conservative movement, I'll pay his expenses.